What is up, you guys? This is Mini Superheroes Today.
Hey guys, I had the amazing opportunity to interview legendary LEGO designer Mark Stafford. He's been on DC, Marvel, and so many other great themes, and it all happened right here in Billund, Denmark at the LEGO HQ. So here's our uncensored interview where we talk about LEGO Marvel, the future of LEGO DC, and so much more. Enjoy. All right, Mark, thank you so much for sitting down. Really excited to be here with you. First and foremost, I just wanted to open and say thank you so much for everything you've brought to the LEGO design team. We were just talking that you've designed so many sets that were important to me and my LEGO building journey, and of course Marvel superheroes among them. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
No problem. Thank you for saying so. It's good to hear.
My pleasure. So a lot of LEGO superhero fans would love to know what the process of sets coming to life are. Of course, today we're surrounded by Black Panther inspired sets.
We are.
But you've designed a lot of superhero sets over the years, including the Daily Bugle, which is one of the all-time greats. So
thank you.
Maybe the Daily Bugle would be a good one to use as an example, unless you have a preference. Where does the design process start, from the inception of the idea all the way up to reveal?
The Daily Bugle's a bit of an odd one, because often with models like the Sunbird here, we would get concept art, or we'd be able to go and look at the comics or the movies and say, well, these vehicles have been in them or will be in them, and we'd work from that. With the Daily Bugle, it was when I moved to the superhero team from, what was I on before, Harry Potter and Overwatch. I came in, and from the beginning, as I was doing the Batman truck based on the Agent's truck, there was just this thing at the back of my head, because I love comic books. I've been buying them since I was a teenager. I have thousands at home, and graphic novels and all sorts of things, but it was always the splash page. You know, when you'd get this build up to the giant battle, and the story would build, and you'd turn the page and there'd be this full double page spread of the heroes flying, and you'd have Mr. Fantastic in the background and the Human Torch at the front, and Spider-Man swinging through, and the Avengers in a Quinjet or something just dropping out the sky, and the bad guys would all be there. This vision was in my head, and I wanted to build it as a Lego model somehow, to get a whole ton of heroes together in an action scene. And it was just there, and I'd finished one model, and we hadn't yet got concept art from the next movie I was planning. I was supposed to be on. I had a week period, and I went to Jesper, who you just met, who's had to leave, and I asked, I've got a week, can I try and build something? I've got an idea for something. And he was, okay, yeah, go for it. There's nothing for a week. And I went and built a sketch model of the Daily Bugle, and it was a little wider than the one that came out, and a little shorter and fatter, but it was a grey skyscraper with 1,000 windows on it, surrounded by superheroes, and it had the Green Goblin flying out with the window smashed already on this sketch model, and it was everything I wanted. It was that splash page, you know. It was stands all over it, basically, with figures in the air, and I built that, and I brought it back at the end of the week and left it there, and they were like, okay, we had other ideas of what could be next year's D2C, the big model, which I can't say what they were, but there were other ideas. And
could I ask, were they in a similar vein of a large building?
I can't reveal that at all. I'm sorry. There's something, because some of it'll happen. Okay. I'm sure some of it'll happen.
Well, that's exciting to know.
And I brought it up, and we put it in the superheroes area, and they were going for the meeting where they would discuss it, and Jesper took that as one of the possibilities. And a few weeks later, they came back and said, all right, Mark, you're going to be making this into a model. And I was, I can't believe it's actually out. You know, I started off because I thought these new curved tiles, I can write the Daily Bugle quite nicely. I can definitely build the building of the Daily Bugle as the background for this splash page I wanted to do.
Sure.
And I can't believe it's now in people's houses, and it just sits there and looks nice next to people's modulars or in their city layouts, and especially next to modulars. I've got this grey, brutal concrete monstrosity next to these beautifully crafted creator models.
Well, it's a beautiful set. It's my all-time favorite set. it sits proudly in my city, and my community is a lot of superheroes fans, so I know the sentiment is shared among a lot of people watching now.
That's cool. Daredevil is my favourite hero, probably. And from the very beginning, I had him sitting on the front there, on that awning.
Yeah.
And the fact that that made it all the way through is one of my favourite things as well.
That's actually a perfect transition to my next question.
Okay.
Of course, a big angle of superhero sets are the minifigures. You know,
Course,
everybody's wondering, when will we get this character? When will we get this character? The Daily Bugle brought us a lot of characters that
It did.
very well may never show up in Lego again. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I certainly never thought we'd get the Punisher. So
Neither did I.
my question then would be, what's the process like of getting minifigures made? Feel free to use the Daily Bugle as an example, or any other superhero set, but...
But do you mean the process for our graphic designers, or the process of how we decide?
I want to go the angle of decision, but if graphic design squeaks in there too, that's fine.
Well, I don't like to talk for them. They know far more than I do. The decisions are, for the Bugle, I had a list of what I wanted there in my splash page, and it was like 50 superheroes long. You know, there were so many heroes on that list, which I don't even mention the names of because they're, fan favorites or my favorites. And,
Sure.
They were there, and then we talked to the team and we pared it down to, okay, we'll suggest these, and the Punisher was on that list, along with some other characters which didn't make it through for reasons you would think the Punisher wouldn't make it through.
Yeah, of course.
And then we work with Marvel, with Disney. Everybody has a little bit of input, and eventually we get to the point where it's like, okay, we have enough available boxes in the warehouse to make this many new pieces. That means we can make this many characters, and working with Marvel, these are the characters they would like, and these are the characters we would like, and I was always pushing Daredevil to the top.
Just to interject, that's interesting that Marvel has characters that they want to see made.
Oh yes, and some they don't. Some of my list were quite high up, because Spider-Man has many friends who are very close to him in the comic books, and obviously you would want those. And there's back in the 80s where they made the Spider-Man and Friends cartoon, and the original idea for that was it would be Spider-Man with Iceman and the Human Torch. But the Human Torch rights were tied up somewhere else, so they invented Firestar to replace the Human Torch. And it was a very similar story with the Tower. There were characters which were very high up the list, which we were told not yet or not now.
But we did get Firestar, which
and
is
that
a cool
meant
inclusion.
Firestar.
So if I can ask then, obviously we did not get Iceman, but as time has gone on, we've gotten Wolverine in the X-Men mech, so there is a possibility for X-Men. Of course, you can't say anything confirmationally, but can you tell us a little bit about maybe the struggles of X-Men appearing in sets up to this point?
I'm not sure I can, because it's beyond my place as a model designer.
I see.
We realize X-Men are incredibly popular. I love the X-Men. I'd love to get some of the more what's his name? Is it Dupe? I'd love to do Dupe. But there's some. I think we have to wait to see what they do now. The license has reverted back to Marvel for movies.
Yes.
And we've got X-Men '97, the TV cartoon, and we see how well that does and how much these characters, which 20 years ago to comic book fans and even movie fans, they were household names, and
Absolutely.
now will they get back to that level again? And
So
if they do, then obviously, yay.
You're a big comic book guy. I'm a big comic book guy. Most people watching this are big comic book people. Do you at least feel optimistic with the Wolverine mech that X-Men could come back to the table?
I'm always optimistic that the X-Men are a timeless story. They're the mutant storyline. The put upon minority is a storyline which, because humanity is what it is, will keep coming back and will always be relevant. So yes, the X-Men will be relevant again. They will find a new voice and they will be back. And as they become mainstream again, I'm not sure they're not mainstream, mind you. But
I know what you mean.
yeah,
At the front of public conversation.
exactly.
That leaves me feeling pretty positive.
Whatever the Marvel movies do with them, of
Sure.
course, we would love to do things based on them, but we'll have to wait and see. There's nothing concrete.
Understood.
We haven't seen anything either.
Okay, well, you heard it here first, folks. Well, my next question does kind of spring off from that. Unfortunately, 2022 has been a pretty lackluster for LEGO DC. We haven't gotten much of anything except for an art set, which isn't technically a superhero set, and we did get the 4+ set with Batman and Harley Quinn, but could you maybe enlighten some disheartened fans as to what the future of LEGO DC may be like, or just what the current state is?
Okay, well, it's not going anywhere. We are still LEGO superheroes, and that's Marvel and DC. We will not stop doing DC, and I am, there's, my cousins keep putting photographs on Facebook of me as a 6-year-old in my vinyl Batman costume. I grew up watching repeats of 66 Batman and Wonder Woman on TV, and the Donna Superman movies were, I was 7 or 8 when they came out. They're formative for me. I would love to do DC and throw in some of the characters that have had TV shows, but it's difficult because if you're based in North America,
Mm-hmm.
then you have the CW shows, the Arrowverse, but they're not a worldwide phenomenon. So Green Arrow is not known by mums in Japan, or at least I doubt it, or Brazil, or or Germany, or there are places in the world which don't have the same impact from those shows. So the characters in them aren't as widely known outside the people you'd expect to know them. The huge comic book fans, geeks like me. I track down these shows and watch them, but because of the distribution around the world is kind of weird as well. So you might be like the Arrow stuff on Netflix here is 2 years behind the what are they called, the Legion, and it's 1 year behind the Flash. So when they have a crossover event, you're like 2 years away from each episode, and it's difficult because these are big marketing things that would get these characters known more universally.
So your point being is that DC maybe has prevalence in North America where it doesn't globally, and that's a problem
with heroes outside of their big movies. So when they have a big movie like Batman, then obviously the Batman, even if it's not made for kids, everybody knows who Batman is. The parents know who Batman is.
And given the tone of the movie, it was exciting and, to me, a little bit surprising that we got as many sets as we did. So it does give me hope for more DC, but,
It would. I think we would love to make as many DC every year as we are Marvel right now. That would be our dream. And I would personally... I met the Wonder Woman set from the movie. I wish the movie had been more popular. I wish COVID hadn't got in the way, so the release was off from the movie. Because all of these things have effects. But it is above me. It's above my pay grade to know what's going on and where we're going with these. But they're not going anywhere, and we'll keep making them DC, and we'll do what we can to widen it from just the Bat. But at the moment, that's the only one really, him and Superman are the only ones really known worldwide. Maybe Aquaman.
Yeah, Jason Momoa has helped popularize him. Well, that does leave me feeling a little bit more positive. I know a lot of superheroes collectors are just really frustrated that there's no DC, and it sounds like you as a designer are too.
Well, as a fan, definitely. As a designer, I've always got something
there's
fun
always
to
a
do.
project. Yeah.
But it's but yes, I would love to do more DC. Play with some of those characters.
So for you as a designer, it's not for the lack of not wanting to, it's the lack of, maybe for lack of a better term, support from above that's saying, hey, we want DC sets. You want to make them, it's just you're not getting the calls from the higher ups to do it.
after Daredevil, the other comic book I bought for most time of all was Legion of Superheroes. You know, I
Sure.
want to do the year 3000 of DC. I want
Yeah.
Matarita Lad and Karate Kid. You know, these are not that Karate Kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
the original Karate Kid. You know, the DC Karate. I would love to do that roster
Sure.
with Superboy or Val or whichever. Yeah, but that's.
Hopefully better days ahead.
I hope so. I really more DC.
Well, I have a little bit of a lighter tone question for you.
Okay.
I've noticed since 2012 up to present day, almost every Lego Marvel set that can include a fire hydrant does. Can you give any kind of insight as to why there are so many fire hydrants in superhero sets? Or fire extinguishers. the
Fire
correct term.
extinguishers.
Yes,
Okay.
the little red fire extinguishers.
Yes. Well, you know, fires are dangerous. You know, and there's nothing wrong with having a fire extinguisher available. Should there be a fire and the superhero's busy fighting the villain, somebody needs to put the fire out.
We even got a firefighter in Spider-Man Far From Home, so you guys take it seriously.
It's a dangerous thing. Yeah. It's there's a little known story about Billund, is that apparently other firefighters in Denmark laugh at the firefighters of Billund because it takes longer to put out fires in our commune than it does anywhere else in Denmark. But the reason for that is there's so much plastic stored in the houses in this commune from the number of fans and employees that when a house catches fire, it burns a long time.
Wow.
Because their attic or their basement is just full of fuel, plastic fuel.
So are the fire extinguishers a reference to that?
No. Just because we like fire extinguishers.
You just like them.
They're just cool. You know, it gives a lot of play for very few pieces. You know, kids can play with a fire extinguisher. They know what it is, they know what it does, and they can play the hero without necessarily having to be able to fly or shoot laser beams out of their eyes. There's that little real world heroic there with the fire extinguisher.
I've been wondering that question for a decade, and to know the answer is so wholesome is so awesome.
But again, I'm not sure that is everybody's answer. That's why I put them in.
I see.
It might be somebody else who's just putting them in because they like putting fire extinguishers in sets. I think it's funny they put it in every set. So.
Hey,
Who
I
knows?
love it. I love it. I know that this isn't necessarily your corner of the superheroes world, but the collectible minifigure series was a real surprise
Nice, isn't
to
it?
come out, but unsurprisingly, it was a huge hit. Without asking any specifics, do you feel confident that maybe we could see another superhero CMF down the line?
Well, like you said, it did really well. When things do really well, it's likely there'll be a follow-up. But future stuff is not what I'm available to talk about today.
Understood. Well, with that being said, Lego Marvel loves Easter eggs.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the fire extinguishers removed. Are there any Easter eggs that maybe you've hidden in sets that you're surprised people haven't caught on?
Honestly, I tend to forget my own Easter eggs anyway. And before superheroes, there's a lot of Lego sets that have my online name, the Lego Nabii, but the Nabii is on a lot of Lego sets.
Could you name one?
Or the Agent's Truck we discussed earlier.
Really?
The number plate for that has NAB11 on it, I think, which references that. And I think there is, I did a little Avengers truck where the back pops open. A very cool toy, but it's a weird looking truck with Hawkeye and Captain America. And I think the number plate for that might reference that as well. But that was a mistake. We were supposed to change it to a Marvel reference, and I think that went through with that on instead, but it's fine.
Do you have a favorite reference that you got to include in the Daily Bugle? Because there's quite a few.
In the Bugle. There's a reference to Daredevil Born Again in it, because Ben Urich is one of the reporters, and I remember he knows who Daredevil is, and he even writes the story, or possibly this was later, But again, he decides not to, and he gets a bottle of whiskey instead. So I put the bottle of whiskey next to the water machine, the drinking machine, as I thought, well, Ben Oliver can need that because he doesn't want to write who Daredevil is on the front page. So it's just a forgettable thing. But of course, it's not whiskey because that wouldn't be allowed in a Lego set.
No, of course not.
So it is green soda pop. But it's specifically there for Ben Ulrich.
Wow. Well, that's one I think would have gone over a lot of people's heads. So
there you go.
We just unlocked a new Easter egg here. So you're a big Marvel fan. The movies too, I presume.
Yes.
Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yes.
Amazing movie.
Brilliant.
My personal favorite MCU. Something about that. You actually did the Sanctum set.
I did. Yes. Oh, the basement. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, in its own right, is kind of the only set from the Wave that's actually based on the movie.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about the secrecy of working on No Way Home? Because those 3 sets really don't have much to do with the movie, with the exception of yours. And could you just talk about the secrecy? Because even as fans, we knew very little going in.
It was very similar to Endgame, where they gave us almost nothing. Because this has so many secrets in it, they don't even want a whisper of it to leak out. And again, until the day I went to the movie, opening day, of course, I didn't know there was going to be more than one Spider-Man. I knew there'd been set leaks that showed it looks like there is, but the actors were still denying it, and I was believing the actors. Foolish me. They're actors, they were acting. So yeah, we didn't know that there was more than one. We also knew we weren't allowed to do any of Spider-Man's regular roster of villains. Everyone we suggested, we were told no.
Oh.
So it was, and then if he needs an antagonist, something to fight against, it's Doctor Strange's basement. So make something up, something that's sort of part insect and part tentacles. And I'm a bit of a Cthulhu fan, so I made bread and butter for me. I just made a vaguely Lovecraftian like monster and put it there. But the basement behind it was based on, they sent us concept art of the teams laying around in the basement with the video games and everything, and it was beautiful concept art with the gateway at the back, and you could vaguely see stuff through the gateway like arches with statues and maybe a font. So I put those in and they were okay with that. And then but at that point it was just the gateway because that's all we had.
Sure.
And a sofa. Can I have more? Is there any more information? Is there any more concept art? And they were building the set at the time. And they actually sent me 60 photos from the set. They walked around and took pictures of the set, but nothing through the door. It was all Doctor Strange's basement. So I got pictures of like barrels with magic books on top and chained up refrigerators saying "Do not open," and rows of bicycles starting with a penny farthing going through the eras all the way up to a modern mountain bike, which is why there's a mountain bike on the wall there, because I thought we might at least glimpse the bikes at the back. Didn't see them in the movie at all, but I know they're there. I've got all these set photos to look at. And it's beautiful. That set is beautiful, by the way. I wish they'd shown more of the basement side just for the Easter eggs that they've put in that I can see in the photographs that you don't see in the... I wonder how many Easter eggs we've missed from the movies because there's no... Set designers doing a great job on Marvel, I've got to say.
Tell you what, I'll come back to Beelin sometime. We can look through the photos together.
I don't think I can do that. I think they're confidential.
You can't blame the guy for trying.
I know. I wish I could stick them on a hard drive myself, but no, they're in the Lego secure stuff.
Well, you can say you saw them, which is quite cool.
Yeah, and then like I say, they were. It was so nice to get those. It's when you're given that amount of trust, it's great. It really is. You appreciate it, what you're working on and who you're working with.
Well, you did a phenomenal job with that set, especially again considering that it's basically the only set we've gotten that's truly from the movie.
Because we got little information.
Yeah.
That was all there was. They had a secret and they wanted to keep it, and I'm kind of glad they did because I loved that movie.
I know that you are hesitant to talk about the future, so let's...
Well, I generally can't.
And I understand.
Feel free to ask and I'll not answer.
Let's just talk as Lego enthusiasts.
Okay.
Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yes.
Amazing movie.
Absolutely.
So many characters.
Yes.
Do you think it's within LEGO's interest to do a big set at some point with all the villains, all three Spider-Men, Doctor Strange, MJ, Ned? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think that, the movie's going on 2 years old next year, 2023? Is it too far behind in the portfolio, or does something like the Infinity Saga wave of sets open the possibility that maybe we could get something like that someday?
Well, the thing to bear in mind with that is the third biggest superhero movie of all time was Black Panther when we made this. And this is coming out several years after that movie. Now Far From Home is the third biggest of all time. It would be crazy not to consider it for future stuff. But again, that's just consider. We will see what happens.
Sure.
And that's as far as I can talk about any future possibilities.
Well, all the future things we've talked about today leave me very optimistic, and should the opportunity ever come up for a big No Way Home set after your work on the Daily Bugle, I'd love to see it be one of your projects.
Well, you'll have to wait and see what we do. I'm quite looking forward to next year when you guys see what we've been working on.
Well, now so am I, so thank you so much, Mark.
If you liked what you saw and you liked what you heard, feel free to click that subscribe button for more LEGO videos coming in the near future.